Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my May book haul. So some of the books that I've been sent by publishers and lots of books that I have bought myself. Now I'm going to switch things up with book hauls a little bit. Firstly, I'm going to try and do much more sort of elevator pitches without too many tangents. I don't know how I'll do that. I'm not the most succinct of chatterboxes. We'll see how we go. But also I've been thinking about my buying habits and how I want to buy a little bit more intentionally. I'm aware over the last few months I have gone a little bit bonkers on buying books. However, I've been to loads of really great independent bookshops and I really want to support them. But there has been a lot of chat on social media about the consumer nature of social media and how consuming, etc. have become a really big thing. And it kind of gives me the ick a bit. And I don't want to sort of be part of that. So yeah, a lot of food for thought. So I wondered actually if in the comments down below, you can tell me your thoughts on book hauls, the good, the bad, the indifferent. I would be really, really interested to hear those thoughts down below. But we're going to do a book haul and we're going to get cracking. And as always, we're going to start with books that have been sent by publishers. And firstly, 3 books that I have shown on the channel before. The first of which I've read is Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. I had the pleasure of hosting Torrey Peters when she came to West Kirby Bookshop to talk about Stag Dance, which is phenomenal. I'll be talking about that in my spring book haul. No, this is a book haul. My spring wrap up,
where I'll be talking about February, March, April and May's books. I think I'm going to have to record it in like 4 different stints and put it all together. Anyway.
When I was prepping for that event, I suddenly realised that my copy of Detransition Baby had vanished. And when I got to the event, they'd already sold all of those. So Serpent's Tail very kindly sent me a copy and Torrey has signed it. So that's really, really lovely. Then we have the paperback of Intermezzo, which is Sally Rooney's latest. I still haven't read this. I got an early copy of it about 6 months before it came out, but because it had an NDA on it, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and so I held off. Then everyone was talking about it, which kind of put me off, but maybe now that it's out in paperback, that's the perfect time where the hype has died down a little, and yet I'll still be able to have a chat with all of you once I've read it in a future wrap-up. So we have that. And then, third and final of the books I've shown on the channel before is The Book of Guilt by Chidgey, and this I'm super duper excited about because I am in the mood for speculative fiction, and this is about 3, I'm guessing triplets, but I'm going to say siblings just in case I'm wrong, who have Mother Morning, Mother Afternoon and Mother Night, and it sounds really dystopic, a little bit creepy, and just the sort of thing I'm in the mood for over the summer. So I'll be heading to this very soon indeed. On to books that I haven't shared with you before. First up, one of my most anticipated non-fiction books of 2025 is Always Home, Always Homesick by Hannah Kent, a love letter to Iceland. For those of you who've read Hannah Kent's debut, Burial Rites, you know that it's set in Iceland. It's based on a true historical crime that happened there, and Hannah spent a lot of time there researching it. And this is her non-fiction looking at that strange and magical and wonderful place. I've been to Iceland and it is phenomenal. I would like to go again at some point. I don't know when that'll be, so how nice to be able to read about it in the interim and travel with Hannah as she reminisces and talks about it. So yeah, very excited for this. This is out in November. Then we have the third of Charlotte Vassell's series featuring Detective Cassius. It's either Beecham or Beauchamp, and that's a whole conversation. These crime novels look at class, privilege, race, lots of basically social issues, but delivered in this brilliantly snarky, kind of camp, but totally gripping set of thrillers. I think these are fantastic, and I have to say I love the new covers. You can see they've reissued the first 2 there, but I have raved about those previous 2 before, and I'm really, really looking forward to this. This will be a real treat. Then we have a book that I'd seen on lots of my favourite bookstagrammers over in America who are getting proofs, and I was like, I hope this book is going to come out in the UK, but I couldn't see any release date, so I was actually thinking of getting it imported. However, a proof arrived as a complete delightful surprise unsolicited, and it is Pan by Michael Clune. This is out in July from Fern Press, And this is about a man who has some kind of episode, and he's in hospital, and they're saying, oh no, it's just a panic attack, you know, don't worry about it. But he's like, no, this is something more than that, it's something more than that. He believes the Greek god Pan is now living inside him, and that's what caused this. And that, I think, sounds fascinating, and I have a feeling my mum might be really interested in reading this. I also think it might be a little bit queer, but I don't know because I've not read it yet. But this is one that I'm super duper keen to read over the summer. Then with Detransition Baby, the lovely folk at Serpent's Tail sent me Valencia by Michelle T. Now, I don't know anything about this book other than I think it's a queer lesbian novel, and Torrey Peters absolutely loves it, which is why they put it with Torrey's debut. It's also got a foreword by Maggie Nelson, which is a really good sign, and it's the 25th anniversary, so it's one of Serpent's Tail's classics. Like I said, know nothing about it, but the fact that Torrey loves it makes me super intrigued to read it, and at some point I would like to do a video reading some of my favourite authors, either favourite books or books that they just really love. So that is one that I'll head to in due course. Another of my most anticipated books of the year arrived, and I was so excited. Olivia Laing's second novel. This is The Silver Book. I absolutely loved her debut, Crudo. I thought it was phenomenal. It's one of my favourite books of the year that came out. Also a big fan of all of the non-fiction of Olivia's that I've read, but I have been really hoping for another novel. So when this was announced, I was like, oh, I can't wait, and it's out in November. This is a tale, well, it's a queer tale. And I was going to go into more detail, but I actually don't know that it's about two men and how they meet. I think it might be, I want to say it's in Venice, but I think that might be, yeah, it's Venice. But I don't want to know any more, because with any books I'm super duper excited for by authors that I've read before and sort of, I'm either fans of or really, well, it's the same thing, fans of or trust their writing, I kind of just want to see what journey they take me on. And that's very much the case with The Silver Book and Olivia Laing. And indeed, it is with Damian Barr's new novel. This is The Two Roberts, and it's set in Scotland, I think in the 1930s. It's a queer, I think, love story, but like I said, haven't found out too much about it because I don't want to know too much before I go in. I just want to see what journey Damian takes me on. I loved his debut novel, I loved his memoir, so I have really high hopes for this. Another highly anticipated novel of 2025. Another highly anticipated non-fiction book, and that's rare for me because I don't read as much non-fiction as I would like. Although that said, slight spoiler, Mum and I have filmed our ranking of the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction shortlist and our winner predictions, which will be on her channel on Wednesday. Our ranking and winner predictions for the fiction prize will be on my channel on Tuesday, this channel on Tuesday. And that shortlist was phenomenal and has made me want to read a lot more non-fiction by women. This is non-fiction by a man, and I don't think I talked about his previous book enough on this channel, and that's a real shame, and I need to work out how I'm going to make amends with that. This is Deep House, the gayest love story ever told by Jeremy Atherton Lynn. I loved his debut, Gay Bar, so much. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, but I literally do not think I've wanged on about that book enough. Very excited for this, and looking forward to this big gay love story, the biggest, well, not the biggest, the gayest love story ever told, and heading to that over the summer too. So many books that I'm looking forward to for summer on this pile. Very excited indeed. Then we have a historical sapphic gothic tale, The Laddie Upstairs. This is by Jessie Elland, and I just think this sounds like it's going to be great. It's upstairs, downstairs. It's about a housekeeper or housemaid who falls in love with a lady upstairs, but then things start getting really creepy. And I'm here for that. It's giving gothic, it's giving historical, and those are two things that are very much on my sort of, I don't know, I feel like I've got the urge for those things at the moment in my reading going ahead. So yeah, a book that I was umming and ahhing buying from Readings over in Australia. That's an independent book shop chain. Every couple of months I'll do an order from there to get books from a favourite country that I've never been to, and I'm quite jealous because Pip has just been. Anyway, this book I don't know as much about as I should, although I believe it's a bit of a psychological sort of suspense novel with a dystopic speculativeness to it, from what I've heard from Natalie, whose channel I'll link down below, who I adore. And this is one of her most favourite recent books, but also by one of her favourite authors. What's the book, Simon? Get on with it. You are not being swift like you said you would be. It is The Thinning by Inga Simpson. And I have just noticed that Sarah Winman has a quote on the front saying, storytelling at its best. So if Sarah Winman and Natalie love her writing, I think I'm going to be in for a treat. It basically says Thinning is both an exquisitely written novel of nature and urgent psychological suspense by the award-winning Australian author. Like I said, I've been thinking about getting this, and then Sphere actually got in touch with me and said, oh, we're publishing an Australian book, we know you like Australian books, would you like this? And it was like fate. So yeah, very, very excited to get to that one. As I am, this debut novel, which is getting a lot of buzz already. I think it's out in the next week or so. I think this is out here in September, and I think this is out now, and I think maybe this is out now because I hadn't done the dates on those, sorry. I think this is out in a couple of weeks. This is Saraswati by Gurnaik Johal, and the lovely folk at Serpent's Tail said that they thought this would be my kind of thing, as it's about a mythical river in India that has gone dry, so no one's seen it for years, and some people don't even believe it exists, but also it's named after a Indian goddess. And this is about a young man who, after his grandmother dies, goes to her, the ancestral home, and there's a well with water that might be just from this river. And I think that sounds really intriguing. I know no more than that. I'll be heading to this one very, very soon. I think that's going to be a book that Mum would really like too. Penultimately, from publishers, although this was hand-delivered because, and this was not on my bingo card for 2025, the lovely Rita Chakrabati, who, this is her debut novel, but is also a BBC news presenter in the UK, came round and had tea and cake and a lovely bookish chat in the garden, as you do. Her publishers had got in touch because she was doing a book event nearby and is really bookish, really liked the sound of meeting me and having a bookish chat, and bringing me a copy of her book. So that's what we did. We were meant to be in the cafe, I should say. It's not like this is a general thing where I just invite authors round for tea and cake, although maybe that could be a series that I do on the channel. What do you think? That could be quite good fun. This sounds like it's going to be fab. Rose Tremaine has called it a gripping story of family betrayal full of passion and anger, and I've heard it has sort of Jane Eyre vibes. So again, that gothic thing that I'm kind of really, really craving at the moment. So another one to head to over the summer. Last but not least from publishers is a cookbook, and this is Upside Down Cooking by Dominic Franks, also known as Dom in the Kitchen on Instagram. I have followed Dom for a while. He is utter joy, and he makes cooking just seem like fun, but also deceptively easy. So I'll be interested to see how I get on with these. And that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but what I mean is when I think of Dom and his recipes and the things he cooks, it gives me Rukmini Iyer vibes from the Roasting Tin books. And so this is a series of recipes that I'm looking forward to. There's not too many ingredients, it doesn't look too complicated, but everything looks delicious and gorgeous and scrumptious. Very like Dom himself. I mean, just the colours in here look gorgeous. That's feta, tomato and strawberry panzanella salad. Oh, leftover Christmas. Oh, I've mentioned Christmas earlier on the channel. That's your fault, Dom. Leftover pie. Then we have some more tomatoey goodness. Oh, mini puff pizzas. I've enjoyed a mini puff in my time. Right, so we have that. Now, I mentioned Rose Tremaine earlier, and I forgot to say that I got a book from the Women's Prize team, and it's a Rose Tremaine book. It is The Road Home, which won the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2008. I was going to say 2028. That's the future, Simon. And Mum and I will be interviewing Rose as part of Women's Prize Live on Wednesday. Very excited for that. I have reread this in advance of that. I love these new editions. Also, just on a random tangent, even though I said I wasn't going to do them, the new font in these, I love it when publishers reprint books and correct the tiny font and make it bigger. Because if you've been around for any length of time, you'll know me and fonts. Oh, it's a thing. On to books that I bought myself, and I'm going to be a dreadful tease because all of these books, which were bought in Scotland at the start of the month, I'm not going to show you now because they will be in a video coming probably the end of next week, but basically coming soon, where I see how many bookshops I can get to in a week in how many countries, because for one of the charities that I work for, I filmed a awareness campaign where I went to a library in each nation. So I went to, hang on, I'm gonna put these down. I went to one in Wales, Swansea University Library, one in England in Bath Central Library, one in Northern Ireland in Antrim, and one in Scotland in Orkney, and did a different challenge in each library. Challenge I had no idea what it was going to be, and if you want to see those videos, they're all live now. I'll link them down below, but that's part of one of the charities that I work for, which supports libraries in supporting their users with visual impairment. So yeah, if you want to go and check that out, please do. I'd be thrilled if you do, because it's not on this channel, it's somewhere else. But I had a lot of fun making it, and the libraries were just, unsurprisingly, incredible and brilliant. And yeah, it was a great time. Like I said, I also filmed, while I was filming all of that, a how many bookshops can I get to in a week and in how many countries video, and those are the final spoils of that, so you'll have to wait for that. But there are some independent bookshop selections of books coming. Firstly, an import, and then some books that I bought in various Waterstones over the last few weeks, and then also 2 books that I'm gonna shame myself about before we head to the indie bookshops. The import book that I got was Mice 1961 by Stacey Levine, because this was like a surprise on the Pulitzer finalist list. There's been quite a bit of hoo-ha over that prize. I'm not going to get involved or embroiled in that, but when I heard about this, I thought, oh, this sounds really good. And I love it when there is a prize list with some books that you've never heard of. And I had never heard of this. This is about 2 orphan sisters and their lodger slash housekeeper, who becomes absolutely obsessed with them. And that to me is giving slight shades of Rebecca, but also that gothic vibe that I'm really, really, really in the mood for. So very excited to get to this. And on the Pulitzer Prize list was also Gail Jones and the Unicorn Woman. I actually saw this in one of the clearance sections in Waterstones I was in. I think quite a few of them have those clearance slash sale sections. I think it must be when a book is going to be coming out in paperback, maybe. And this is a case of me being a bit naughty, because I don't really know what it's about at all. And also I do have, I think, another book or 2 by Gail Jones on the shelves that I've been meaning to get to for ages. So yeah, in looking at my book buying habits, that's something that I need to stop doing. I need to get to the books by the authors. I need to get to books by authors that I'm intrigued for, that I already have on the shelves. I think that makes sense. I'm not sure if it did, we'll see. But yeah, we have that. Then I picked up a book that I have shown on the channel before, a book that I had a proof copy of, but when I saw the finished edition, which looks very different to the proof copy, I was like, oh, I have to get this. And this, to me, I think is possibly, although that's me putting quite a lot of pressure on it, going to be my book of the summer, I feel like. And I think I want to save it until I actually go on holiday in July abroad, fingers crossed. And it's Sunstruck by William Rayford Hunter, and people are describing this as being very like Saltburn, and that's all I need to know. I'm really, really here for it, and I would quite like to have a gothic summer this summer, and I think I'm gonna do a whole video on my summer reading plans in due course, at some point, either or. And this is one book that I definitely want to head to over the summer months. And yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of books that I want to read this summer, but then there's a few that I want to particularly savour for when I'm on holiday. Then I picked up this book literally a couple of days before the sad news that this author had died. This is Edmund White's The Loves of My Life, a sex memoir. I was hit way harder than I expected by the announcement of Edmund White's death. His books, A Boy's Own Story and The Beautiful Room is Empty, are 2 of those, well, such important books to me as a reader and as a queer person. As a young queer person, when I was trying to find myself through books, those 2 memoirs just, they were incredible. I mean, also they're salacious, and I think this is going to be very saucy, but they made me feel seen, or feel like I had, I don't know, they informed me in ways that I wasn't getting informed, because it sounds like not a long time ago since does it? I was a teenager in the 1990s, and I was, I lived in secret, so these books kind of helped me learn and, I don't know, feel seen without being seen, if that makes sense. And I've read a lot of his fiction, his memoirs. I haven't talked about him on the channel for ages because I hadn't read one for ages, but this was a book that I was so excited to get when it came out, and then for some reason just didn't, but then saw in the shop the other day, picked it up because I was like, oh, do you know what, I'm just the mood for that, having also read a great queer memoir recently that I'll talk about in a future wrap up. Yeah, so intrigued for this one, and also think it's going to be both a salacious, naughty, fascinating read, but also kind of a really sad one because it's his last work. I also feel sad because I always hoped I would get to interview Edmund White, and now that won't happen. I mean, it's probably for the best because all I would have done would probably just be like fanboy at him and say how, without him, I wouldn't be the reader that I am today. Anyway, moving on to the last book that I picked up in a Waterstones, but last but not least, because I adore the author, this is The Lady of the Lake by Jean Menzies, who is a booktuber I'm sure that didn't even make any sense. A booktuber I am sure all of you already follow. If you don't, I'll link Jean's channel down below. This is a reimagining of the Arthurian legend of the Lady of the Lake with a sapphic twist, and I am here for it. I'm in the mood for some retellings, actually, be they myths or fairy tales. I feel like, yeah, that's something that's on the horizon for me. I said I was going to shame myself with the next two books I am, because they're two books that I bought in a supermarket, which is not as bad as buying books off a certain website.
No, people say if you hate that website so much, why have you got a wishlist? But the exception that I make with that is that wishlist is for books that I can't buy in an independent or indeed a high street bookshop in the UK.
Supermarkets aren't as bad, but they're not far off. And I bought two in May. The first of which is Babylonia by Costanza Casati, whose Clytemnestra I absolutely loved. I already have a hardback of this, however, that doesn't come with the acknowledgements, and I'm in the acknowledgements, so I wanted to have a copy of that for myself. So I got it, and it has given me the nudge that I need to read it. So this is a book I will be definitely also heading to over the summer. It's set in ancient Mesopotamia in the 9th century BC, which is not a period of history I know very much about. I know my little sister is so excited for this. She loved Clytemnestra, but she loves that period of history and doesn't feel there's enough books about it. So yeah, maybe I'll suggest that me and Miriam do this as a buddy read or something. But yeah, that is that. And the other one I picked up was Spellbound, which, speaking of retellings, this is a fairy tale retelling, a retelling of Sleeping Beauty by Georgia Layton. And Georgia, I used to know as Rose Mannering, who had a booktube channel, and I loved her channel, and sadly it is no more. She hasn't done anything on there for ages, but I wanted to support her, and I wasn't sure when I was next going to get to a bookshop, and also it was that thing of, oh my goodness, that's George's book, I'm going to buy it right now. So yeah, that's my excuses for that. But from now, no more supermarket book buying. It doesn't matter how stressful I find the big shop, that is not a reward for it ever after. Gone all fairy tale. That's not a reward for afterwards. Moving on from that and back to, like I was saying, well, not like I was saying, I haven't said it yet. One of the things that I really want to do with my book buying is be a little less, well, buy with less abandon, not ban myself from anything, but make sure that I'm really supporting indie bookshops. And recently, all my family had a breakaway together. I was only there for 3 days of the week, but we had a breakaway together in Northumbria, and we went to two fantastic bookshops in Alnwick. The first of which is the second-hand bookshop, Barter Books. I feel like that could cause a whole debate in the comments about whether second-hand books are good for the industry or not.
I think it's fine. I think it can introduce you to authors that you may then go and buy their books. I mean, yeah, you're also giving to charity, and I know libraries give money to... anyway, let's not go into that unless you really want to in the comments down below.
I like a second-hand bookshop. This, I have to say, was one that gave me slight overwhelm because there were so many bookshelves and so many books, but I still managed to leave with 4 books, so not too much overwhelm to shop, apparently. The first of the books I got was A Wreath for the Enemy by Pamela Frankow. And this is a book that I've had on my periphery for a while. It's published by Daunt Books, which always intrigues me. It's also a book that came out previously and sort of vanished off the radar. It came out in the 1950s, and Daunt Books have brought back. It's about a precocious young woman who is, I don't know if she's living in a hotel, but she's staying in a hotel, which nicely links to June's Savage reading prompt.
I think it's a book set in a hotel. I could be wrong though, because I'm a little bit all over the shop with all of my prompts that I've signed up for this year, including my own.
And it's how she kind of becomes a bit besotted with different people at the hotel, particularly one couple, and how I think that goes a bit sour. So I'm intrigued for this, and it's giving summer vibes, and I've had it on my periphery. So yeah, when I saw that as a bargain, I was like, yeah, I'm having that. I also picked up Quickly While They Still Have Horses by Jan Carson. I saw Jen talk about this on her channel recently, and she said that the first story had absolutely had her, I mean, that's not what she said, but that's the response I'm giving. But it took her breath away a little bit, and she was really anxious reading it, and that intrigued me. Jan Carson is one of those authors who I've not read anything by, but I feel like is going to be one of my favourites. So keep buying her books when I see them, which at some point, Simon, you've got to read them, and goes completely against what I was saying earlier about I need to stop doing that. But that's going forward. That's not in the past. Also, I need to get much better at reading short story collections, because I do tend to pick them up and then get very excited about them and then leave them for a while. Although, slight spoiler ahead, I did buy a short story collection yesterday and read it on the train from London home. And that links into something else I can say. I am going to document, I think it's going to be some kind of video, the books that I buy in June and how many of them I actually read. I thought that'd be something fun to do. I don't feel like I want to punish myself for buying books, but I also want to make sure I'm aware of how much I'm consuming and adding to that whole thing.
But I also don't want to dwell on it, because I don't take the fun out of buying books, because it's something that I do because I can, and it's lovely.
Anyway, penultimately from Barter Books, I picked up The Penelopad by Margaret Atwood. Admittedly, I do already have this book. I was reminded of it after I saw the film The Return, which is set when Odysseus returns to Ithaca and the response he gets from Penelope, who he left for such a long time. And this is Margaret Atwood's take on that. The cover I have is not as stunning as this cover, and I just think that's gorgeous. So yeah, I picked that up, and I will pass the other one on to someone else. And last but not least, from Barter Books, before we head to my last selection of books from another bookshop, we have Twilight Sleep by Edith Wharton, which I feel like has been reissued recently. But until that point, it was one of Edith Wharton's books that was harder to get. And I am a huge Edith Wharton fan. I have loved every single book of hers, particularly The House of Mirth. That's one of my absolute faves. And I would like to read a lot more of her work. But like I said, it's not always easy to find some of her older books. Don't know what this one's about. No idea at all. But I know because her writing is so fabulous, I will love it. And yeah, in fact, this summer, I need to read her book, Summer. And as I mentioned, we went to 2 bookshops that day. And last but certainly not least, because this has become one of my absolute favourite indie bookshops in the UK. If you ever get the chance to go, I think it might be in my top 3. It's definitely in my top 5. It's the Accidental Bookshop in Alnwick. And this is a sibling of The Bound in Whitley Bay, which I also really love, and Forum Books in, I want to say Corbridge or Hexham, I've got my places confused, but Forum Books, which is another bookshop that I have always meant to go to and think I'll love. But yeah, I loved it in there, the way it's laid out, the curation of books, it was just incredible. So I was quite naughty in there because I'd planned to buy one book with the last of a book voucher that I had, although I caveat that with, I had said to my aforementioned little sister that she could buy 5 books because it had been her birthday, and yeah, she could pick whatever she liked. Babylonia was one of the books that she picked, and I didn't push her into that. She was very excited for it anyway. But there was so many great books, I ended up buying another 2. So I left with 3. The book that I'd gone in there to get specifically was the independent bookshop edition of a book that I had the proof of. Wow, that sounded overly complicated. And that is Muckle Flugger by Michael Pedersen. And not only does this have the most incredible hot pink spreads, it's also a signed edition. So I was like, yeah, that's the one that I'm getting. And I did. This is set on a remote island called Muckle Flugger, which I thought was made up, but it's not. It's one of the Shetland Isles, and I was near there-ish recently when I went to Orkney, and so I was like, oh, that's made me want to read it even more over the summer. And I think this has, again, that sort of summery gothic vibe that I talked about really being in the mood for. Thrilled to have picked this up. And then the other two I got were a non-fiction book, because like I said earlier, the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist was so incredible. It reminded me how much I love non-fiction and how I want to read more. And this is one that I've been eyeing up in hardback, but was like, oh, it's so expensive. So then seeing it in paperback, and in a hot pink paperback no less, had to have it. It's Catland by Catherine Hughes, and this is Feline Enchantment and the Making of the Modern World. And basically why, as a society, we've pretty much become obsessed by cats and how that happened. And as someone who now has 4 cats, it feels like a very apt book for me. So yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for this one. And then last but certainly not least, is a book that I hadn't heard of, saw on the display, was intrigued by, and then picked up and was like, oh goodness, like this is totally going to be something I'm going to love. And then when I was at the till, one of the members of staff was just like, oh my god, that's amazing, you're going to enjoy it so much. It is The Ballad of Jacquot Delahaye by Bryony Cameron, and all I'm going to say is Lesbian Pirates. I don't feel like I need to say any more. And I have Kate Moss to blame for this, because ever since I read her book about lesbian pirates, I've been wanting to read more. So here we have this one, and I'll be getting to this one very, very soon too. Historical, sapphic, gothic, pirates. Go for it. I think Lesbian Pirates are going to be responsible for me doing a 360 on the opinion that I hate books set on boats. So I'm very thankful to them. Anyway, there we are. Those are the books that I bought. Well, nearly all of the books that I bought. You'll have to wait for that vlog coming. And some of the books that I got sent by publishers. I would love to know if you have read any of these. Although, if you've read them and you didn't like them, don't tell me that now. Wait until I wrap them up at some point, whenever that might be. Who knows? If you have loved them or are very excited about them, let me know that in the comments down below. Please let me know your thoughts on book hauls. I would be really, really, really interested to hear them. Don't make me beg, but I would be. Until next time, my Instagram, my Patreon, my Blue Sky, my wishes, all those things are down below. And I'll be back on Tuesday with Mum for our ranking of the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist and our winner predictions. Will we agree? Will we disagree? Will we have the same prediction? Who can say? You'll find out on Tuesday. I will see you all then. Bye.